Hello, this video is going to be a tutorial on how to insert elastic into a circular area such as this. I've cut quite a large area so you could see it. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is the pattern development. So, for example, this is my, let's say, pant or my jacket. And this is the circle I want, so I'm going to actually cut out my circle. And it would hypothetically have like a 1/2 inch seam allowance in here, so make sure that you build your seam allowance into that, right? It doesn't come this way, it goes that way. So if this was my circle that I finished here that I wanted for the finished measurement, once a seam allowance is sewn, I would add my 1/2 inch right into here and bring this line out. Once this is, and make sure you mark your grain line, right? So I've got my straight grain here. Then I'm going to need a facing pattern. So what I've done is I have traced my exact circle, which already has my 1/2 inch seam allowance in. So I'm going to finish this at 2 inches. This is just a random measurement. If you are doing like a really large elastic, you might want to go like 4 inches, but just for demonstration, it's 2 inches. So I already have my 1/2 inch on here because I built it onto my bottom piece. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark my casing for the elastic. So my elastic is 1/2 inch. I want you to add an extra 1/8 of an inch, as you can see here, just so that when this elastic is being stretched in the fabric and gathers back up, it has room for you to be in there, and also so that when you pull it through with the safety pin, that you have plenty of room in here. Okay, so what I've gone ahead and done was cut my 2 pattern pieces out. Oh, one more thing to mention. I kind of like to do this on the bias, this piece, so that when it turns inside, it moves around the circle a little bit easier. So I would recommend doing that. So the next step is I will show you how to sew this. Okay, so now I've gone ahead and pinned all of the facing back. Actually, let me unpin to show you what I did. So you had the right sides together, they were all trimmed, and then I pressed them open and then pressed them flat towards the facing and rolled the facing back towards the garment, and then just went ahead and pinned all the way around the circle. Let's see if you can see. Bring the camera back a little. So you can see like it's all completely folded back. So this is the wrong side of the garment where I have my X, and then this is the right side. So the right side will look clean like this for now. So now I'm going to go ahead and top stitch right on top of my marked line. And you're going to do that all the way around the circle. So I'm approaching where I started, and then I'm going to just leave myself about 1 inch opening so I can feed the elastic through. So just go ahead and back stitch with your threads. So you're going to go ahead now and take your elastic. You will attach a safety pin to the end of the elastic, like so. Okay. And this will help you guide the elastic through the hole. So you just start where that opening is. I'm going to turn it so I'm working from the front. And I'm just squishing the fabric, not a better word to say, just kind of pushing the safety pin through and then pulling it, the elastic through a little bit at a time. I'm just about halfway done, so bear with me or fast forward. It's just going to be that. Now as it's getting thicker here, my little, I'm going to have to keep moving it down from this side too. And just be aware that you don't run out of elastic as you're pulling this side, that there's always some elastic. If you're running close, just put a pin to hold it, put another safety pin or regular pin to pin the elastic through the layers of the muslin or of your fabric. In this case, it's muslin. Okay, I'm almost there. And now I want you to, when you get to the end here, you also want to make sure that this had not gotten twisted while you were doing this, because it can happen. But that's why I try to keep my thumb, if you notice, like really flat as I was doing this, like holding the elastic flat. So I'm going to pull this part out and then just go ahead and anchor it to the anywhere on the garment here while I test to make sure it's not twisted. So I'm going to pull this all back to get the desired effect that I'm trying to achieve. See, like that's like really, really tight. Pull this around. You should have a predetermined amount of elastic that you want to have for this, but I'm just kind of winging it right now. And make it so, like, I think like that looks quite pretty right here. So you'd want to make sure that that's what's happening all the way around. When I get to this end, I'm going to have to stretch it again some more because it's towards the end, so it wasn't being held tight. Okay. So this is pretty much what I think I'm happy with. I will go around and I made sure it wasn't twisted. Okay. Now I'm going to connect it to the end, the other end of the elastic. So make sure once you release it that you don't lose it. Now here's what I also want to show you. So I'm going to pull it all out as much as I can. Let me cut my elastic off. Oops. And now you want to lay one, whoops, that didn't work, one flat on top of the other by about 1/2 inch on each side. I'm going to put a pin. And then I'm going to join these two on the sewing machine. If you have the home machine like I'm using here, I would suggest that you pick the zigzag stitch and just go ahead and zigzag the elastic together, because the elastic will give it some more stretch. Well, it's getting really difficult in there. Let me unpin it for right now. Okay, I'm going to... The hardest part is just getting it under the machine, because now it's really tight, right? It's stretched to where we want it to go. And see my zigzag? Oh gosh, the fabric is covering it. Sorry about that, guys. And I'm going to do two rows of zigzag and then come back again. That'll hold it. It'll allow for as much stretch as you need. If you're using an industrial sewing machine and you don't have the zigzag machine to do this part, then I would suggest doing like maybe 3 rows of straight stitch at a long stitch. Okay, now I'm pushing it into the hole there. I'm going to make sure the gathers are how I like them. Put my machine back on the straight stitch, and I'm just going to go back under here and close up this hole that I made. And there you go. Okay. So, back the camera up a little bit more so you can see. And that's how you would make a beautifully finished hole, like in your pant, on your jacket. Sometimes you might make a little pocket with a little gathering like this. Just all kinds of things you can do. And then the inside looks like that. Now this edge, I should have mentioned, you would want to pre-finish this, whether it's through a serging, a binding, whatever you decide needs to be done, maybe a turned and stitched hem or something. But you shouldn't have to sew it down now. With the gathers, everything will be held in place. And that's it.